Chapter 2379, What Are You Doing? Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Rykov. Translation checker, Pew Pew Laser Gun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. If you're thinking of getting the Grandmaster to refine an artifact for you, then there's no chance for you today. The boy snorted, but you're lucky you ran into this young master. If you don't mind, you might as well take out the materials and I'll help you refine what you need. You're also an artifact refiner. Yang Kai looked at him in surprise. The boy turned up his nose and puffed up his chest, flipping his hair back in a dashing manner and spoke with arrogance. What's so difficult about something as trivial as artifact refining? This young master is gifted and has been under the Grandmaster's tutelage for so long. I can help you for sure, but the reward. Yang Kai spat disdainfully and left without even turning back. The boy was only at the origin returning realm, so even if he really was an artifact refiner, how good could he be? He was seeking out Grandmaster Sangda to repair a high-grade spirit purifying array, which was even more difficult than refining one in a certain sense. Yang Kai was sure this boy didn't have the skills to do this. Hey, don't go. Are you looking down on me? Let me tell you, this young master is a saint-grade artifact refiner. Miss out now and you may never get another chance, so don't regret this later. The boy was stamping his feet, seemingly feeling deeply humiliated by Yang Kai. For several days, Yang Kai would visit Grandmaster Sangda's place every day. According to what the boy told him, the Grandmaster had already opened shop twice this month, so there was only one more opportunity left, but he did not know the exact time, so Yang Kai could only try his luck. Unfortunately, after a few days, Yang Kai was still left with no harvest. On the other hand, he had been walking around the streets these past few days, so Yang Kai had almost gotten a complete picture of Clear Sky City and was getting a good grasp of the local customs. Seeing that there weren't many days left in the month, Yang Kai was worried that he might be late and miss out on one of the Grandmaster's opening days, or that he might not be able to squeeze into the 10 spots, so he simply decided he would stop running around and went straight to the Grandmaster's residence and began squatting there. He thought he had gone early enough to find a good spot, but when he arrived, Yang Kai realized he was wrong. There were already many cultivators waiting in line outside Grandmaster Sangda's residence. Yang Kai was dumbfounded at the sight. But after some thought, he realized these people must be thinking the same thing as him. There wasn't much time left in the month, but there was still one more chance for the Grandmaster to open his doors, so they came early to wait for him. After counting them carefully, he found that there were 9 people ahead of him, making him the 10th. So, without saying anything more, Yang Kai silently stood at the end of the line. The floor-sweeping boy seemed a little animated with the presence of this crowd. When he saw so many people come, he tried his best to market himself and boast about his skills, hoping these cultivators would give him their materials for him to refine. But the cultivators living here were obviously aware of this boy's skills, so the crowd did not utter a single word in response to his chattering and did not pay any mind to his extravagant and colorful words either. The boy seemed to be exasperated. Yang Kai scoffed, "If you have the time to run your mouth dry, why don't you just find some materials to practice on? You must have been following the Grandmaster for some time. Hasn't the Grandmaster taught you that you have to take everything one step at a time and not be overly ambitious?" The boy muttered, "Stop running your mouth and just stand in line properly." But after Yang Kai taught him a lesson, he also felt too embarrassed to latch onto those cultivators anymore. He turned around and went inside, shutting the door behind him. What the eyes do not see, the heart does not grieve. The cultivators who came here were all waiting for Grandmaster Sangda to open his doors so they could request his help in artifact refining. As none of them were familiar with each other, none of them participated in idle chatter. The ones who were bored from waiting all day just sat down cross-legged and began to meditate. No one dared to be unruly in front of the Grandmaster's door, so there was no need to fear some scoundrel without eyes stirring up trouble. And, as time went on, more and more people came. But when these cultivators saw 10 people waiting here, most of them shook their heads in disappointment and left. They knew Grandmaster Sangda's rules and knew that they would just be wasting their time if they stayed here. They could only wait for next time. But some had clearly made preparations and took out source crystals hoping to buy a spot from the 10 people in line, including Yang Kai, but few were successful. Only 2 spots managed to be bought. Naturally, Yang Kai was also approached by the people who wanted to buy a spot with source crystals, but did he lack source crystals? In response, Yang Kai just shook his head. After waiting for 2 days, the front door suddenly opened and the boy came out with his head held high and cleared his throat in a pretentious manner, announcing aloud, "The third artifact refining of the month will now begin. Please come inside with me if you are among the first 10 guests in line." The crowd was overjoyed by his words and all stood up. After waiting for so long, the Grandmaster finally opened his doors for the 3rd time this month. These people felt that it was worth it because Grandmaster Sangda rarely made any mistakes with his artifact refining. Even though the fee was slightly more expensive, he was truly skilled. Essentially, as long as they request it, the Grandmaster would be able to fulfill it. Ha ha ha. Why come early if you can come just in time? A loud laugh suddenly rang out, followed by a figure that shot forward from behind. Domineeringly, the man squeezed into the queue, occupying a spot, the strong wind invoked by his powerful aura causing everyone to frown in displeasure. But after checking his cultivation, their displeasure turned into fear. Reason being that the person who arrived was a third-order Dao Source Realm Master. Among the 10 waiting here, excluding Yang Kai, only one well-dressed woman was at the third-order Dao Source Realm. The rest were all first- or second-order origin Dao Source Realm cultivators, so they naturally did not dare to offend this man. The newcomer was dressed in purple robes that look extremely conspicuous. He was born with a dignified appearance, but there was a strong look of superiority in his eyes, as if no one in this world was worthy of his attention. After he snatched a spot arrogantly, Yang Kai, who was originally at the end of the line, had inexplicably become the 11th person. Grandmaster Sangda only opened his doors to 10 people at a time, so if he stood at the 11th place, would that not mean that he would no longer have the qualifications to enter and waited all these days for nothing? Yang Kai was instantly irked and he shouted at the boy from the shop, "Brat, are you just going to let that happen?" "What? I didn't see anything." The boy tilted his head away and almost rolled his eyes back into his head. It was quite apparent that he still held a grudge over Yang Kai beating him on the head. When he saw Yang Kai being squeezed out of the last spot, he was secretly feeling giddy, so of course he wouldn't help Yang Kai. Yang Kai's face turned grim. "Are you blind? Can't you see that this person just cut in line?" The boy fumed, "My eyes are perfectly fine. You're the one who's blind." Yang Kai sneered, "Acting so unruly in front of the Grandmaster's door, could you be any more unreasonable?" "Unreasonable?" The cultivator who cut in line scoffed at this. "You want to talk reason? This king is reason here. Let me reason with you then. You said that I cut in line, but are there any witnesses? Whoever saw me do such a thing can stand out and announce it loudly, and I, Yu Leping, will immediately give up this spot." As he spoke, he turned his head to look around, but the remaining 9 were silent, none of them spoke a word. They all seemed very afraid of this guy called Yu Leping. "I saw it." Yang Kai glared at him. Yu Leping coldly snorted, "Don't try to start trouble if you came late. If you dare slander this king like this again, dare you believe that I will gouge your eyes out?" "You can try." Yang Kai was so angry that he could laugh. This guy called Yu Leping was simply shameless. It was clearly he who came late and cut the queue, but now the thief was crying thief instead. Yang Kai had never seen such a thick-skinned person in his life. "You're courting death, brat." Yu Leping seemed to be angered by his words. He did not in the slightest expect that Yang Kai would dare rattle against him in such a manner. Enraged, his feet moved and he had directly turned his hands into claws and slashed towards Yang Kai. Before his attack could even arrive, an overwhelmingly strong gust of wind had already been stirred up by it. From this scene, it seemed like he really did intend to gouge out Yang Kai's eyes without mercy. A few of the weaker cultivators were affected by his aura and their faces changed as they retreated backwards. Yang Kai stood still where he was and looked coldly at the boy. "Do you also not care that someone is starting a fight outside the Grandmaster's door?" The boy sneered, "It's your business, you should settle it yourself." "Well said." Snorting coldly, Yang Kai turned his eyes back to Yu Leping. Yu Leping, who was originally taking on an aggressive stance, instantly had a bad premonition when he received this stare from Yang Kai, a chill running through his body. However, he was a third-order Dao Source Realm Master, and other than a few powerhouses on Clear Sky Island who could strike fear into him, who else could fight him? So, after just a short moment of hesitation, he made a ruthless move. Yang Kai raised his head and threw a fist out, causing a surge of source chi that was like a violent volcano, so powerful that it shocked everyone. Pa! Yu Leping claw met Yang Kai's fist as he smirked viciously. Just as Yu Leping was about to try and crush Yang Kai's hand, he was shocked to find a tsunami of power gushing over him. This power was so strong that he was unable to resist it even with his third-order Dao Source Realm cultivation. The protective source chi around his body quickly dissolved just like a snowflake under the sun. That gush of power traveled from the palm of his hand all the way through his arm, bursting his sleeves open. His flesh was splayed apart, tendons and bones separating. Hong. The raging Yu Le Ping flew out as if he had been hit by a huge lightning bolt, landing directly into a corner of the wall. Wah! A large spurt of blood splashed out from his mouth as Yu Le Ping's arrogant aura withered away in an instant, face becoming ashen and bloodless. My arm! In the next moment, he bellowed. Looking down, the arm he used to attack Yang Kai had been destroyed, laced with blood. White bones were poking out from the skin. It was a shocking sight. The boy's face was instantly frozen. The other 9 in line were also horrified at the scene as each of them looked at Yang Kai with overflowing fear in their eyes. Yang Kai looked harmless before he made any moves, and even went as far as to ask the boy for fairness, so never would they have expected him to be so vicious and ruthless. Just one punch and he was able to cripple Yu Le Ping, a third-order Dao Source Realm Master, without even a change in his demeanor. He can't be one of those Emperor Realm Masters who were secretly hiding their cultivation to play the pig to eat the tiger, right? This thought emerged in each one of the people present, and the shop boy even began dripping with cold sweat.